doesn't matter, who it is, they're not allowed to go outside.
In Italy tonight, 16 million people in the country's hot zone now in lockdown.
Facilities built in record time, but still it couldn't be contained.
We are introducing New York State Clean hand sanitizer.
Nearly 400 people have already died, which is more than half of the total global death toll of SARS. Now tell me that we should not be taking this incredibly seriously.
Beijing is much more north of where basically ground zero for the virus was in Wuhan. So, but it's still been very strict here. So we have a lot of regulations. For example, most recently there was one where anyone traveling back from a region that has a high rate of infection, so like Korea, Japan, Iran, they have to go through a 14-day self-quarantine. And so these regulations kind of change, and again, it depends on where you live, because before it was like, okay, anyone traveling back has to go through a 14-day quarantine. And then they're like, okay, no, not everyone. And now it's like, okay, well, if you were in these areas, then you have to do it. And so what that means is, and it depends on the community that you live in, but basically you have to go in, you have to, register with your community, and you basically get your food delivered to you. You can't go out. They take your trash away for you, that kind of thing. So for me, I haven't had to go through that because I never left the country. I was here the whole time, but there are still restrictions even if you haven't been traveling. And so, for example, a ton of bars and restaurants and public spaces have shut down, but some of them are still open. But if you're open, they said no group dining. So that means, so at first they didn't know what that meant, like what's a group. And I think the consensus was, okay, it means 3 people. So no more than 3 people sitting at a table. And the tables have to be at least 1 meter apart. And in some places you have to wear a mask while you're in the public space. In the restaurant, unless you're like actively eating or drinking. Mm-hmm. But again, it kind of depends on what area you live in and how strict the police are around your area. Everyone wears a mask when they go out. Everyone washes their hands a million times a day. Anytime you go anywhere, you get your temperature checked. They have a temperature gun. You usually have to sign in and register if you go to the grocery store or to a restaurant or something like that. So it's basically been like everyone working from home, once in a while go out to eat, but never in large groups or anything like that. We can still go outside and go to the grocery store and walk the dogs. As soon as everyone heard about the outbreak and we realized how serious it is, that's when they cracked down. And, nobody's allowed to go back to school. And so they do that here in Beijing. They take it very seriously. But in some areas, like our company has an intern that's in Wuhan now, because she went to visit her parents during Chinese New Year and she got stuck. So she's there, and they are not, doesn't matter, who it is, they're not allowed to go outside. They have people coming to take the trash. They have people disinfecting the streets. I think they're allowed to go outside once every 7 days or something, and maybe for a limited amount of time. But there are no grocery stores open, no restaurants, no bars, nothing like that. Like, it's very, very clamped down there, whereas here, we're still, some people are still quarantining and they're still doing temperature checks, but we can go outside, we can go out to eat if there are places still open. They can censor whatever they want to censor, and it's not like they haven't done it before. So I can't definitely say, oh no, they're definitely lying or they're definitely telling the truth. Nobody really knows. But just from the information that we have been given, we do kind of understand. We have a pretty good idea of what's going on. Like, we do know that, it's pretty bad in Wuhan. There are over 3,000 deaths in all of China, but a big bulk of them have come from Hubei, which is where Wuhan is, like the epicenter, basically. And then in Beijing, the infection rate is much lower, and the death rate is even lower than that. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea if they're telling the truth or if they're lying. Like, who really, really knows that, except the actual people reporting what it is here to live in China while this is happening, and then to look at Western media is so wild, because Western media, they love it. They blow it up and they make it seem like, they look at the worst of the worst at it and say, oh my God, this is all in China. Even if the, death rate isn't high right now, there's no vaccine for it. We know that the rate of infection is fast, and people can be asymptomatic and still have it. So I think that's a scary thing. But then you have to look at that information and not start to think, oh, okay, I need to buy all the toilet paper, all the water, all the masks. You have to think like, all right, so I'm going to wash my hands way more than I usually do. I'm not going to touch my face. Maybe I won't go out in a crowded public place. I'll be smarter about where I go and who I'm with, and keeping myself healthy and making sure I help keep other people healthy. We have a hard time here getting enough masks because health workers need these masks. And so you think about, if this is going to happen in the States as badly as it happened here in China, you're taking masks away from people that actually need it. It's not going to prevent you from getting it necessarily, but if you're an asymptomatic carrier, like you don't know that you have it, and you're going around sneezing and coughing on things, then it's preventing you from spreading it. So, I just think it's about people's reaction to it, and they just need to be a lot smarter than they are, and just take a chill pill. Yes, it's serious, but be smart about it, and don't go crazy.